In this video, I'm going to show you guys how I converted my old Volkswagen Vanagon from gasoline to diesel. I don't know about you guys, but that certainly doesn't sound like the old Subaru gasoline motor that we're used to hearing in the back of the old Volkswagen. Matter of fact, that is the sweet, sweet sound of a brand new turbo diesel engine. Now you guys might be asking, well, what the heck? When did that happen and how did that happen? In order to tell that story, let's back up a couple months. Using up what was left of the old Subaru conversion, the Vanagon limped across the country some 2,470 miles from the Pacific Northwest to Nashville, Tennessee. Using a conversion kit by Boxeer, we are dropping in a brand new, straight from the Volkswagen factory, turbo diesel TDI motor. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the adventure. Let's go see what we can get ourselves into. Those of you that have been following this channel for a number of years are very, very familiar with this old Volkswagen. This is what I started living in way back in 2011 when I started my van life journey. It has got 310,000 miles on it. I've been through a plethora of Subaru motors after I converted it from the original Volkswagen motor back in 2012. This was a motor that I bought on Craigslist for like 150 bucks. This old 2.2 Subaru motor is coming out of there. It's time for it to go. I am actually out here at the Boxeer shop in Nashville, Tennessee, and we are going to convert this old Volkswagen to a brand new TDI crate motor. And Greg over at Boxeer has developed a beautiful kit that makes it very straightforward for these old vans. We're going to get into this project and see what it's all about. Okay, well, I've just got the engine lid off of the Vanagon here. This old Subaru motor is now exposed. You can definitely see the trace of every single adventure that it's been on over the last 5 or 6 years because it's all caked right here on this motor. This thing is in bad shape. That is one of the tough negatives of the Vanagon platform, is the fact the most important part of the vehicle is back here at the rear of the vehicle, and it is right over the top of the back wheel. So any sort of off-road adventures, it just gets hammered hard with dust, dirt, and grime. And that's what we're seeing right here. Well, this is it. This is where I start the process of prepping this motor to be dropped on the ground. I'm gonna start from the top up, work my way down. Basically anything that is attached from the motor to the firewall of the van, we are undoing, disconnecting, or just completely cutting, because there is a lot of the existing coolant system, fuel system, wiring system that is not needed for the conversion to the TDI. We'll be ready to drop this thing out of here in no time. I think we're at a point where we can go ahead and drop this old Subaru motor out along with the transmission. That way the transmission's out on the ground and we can mate it up nice and easy to the new motor. Bam! Just like that, we've got the Subaru and the transmission here on the ground. This is one of the biggest steps in this whole entire process, is getting this old decrepit Subaru motor out of the van on the ground. At this point, we're gonna have to detach the auto trans from this motor, then this thing just gets completely discarded and we go to work on the new setup. It's time to get dirty. Oh yeah, another important step down. We've got the transmission separated from the Subaru motor. And then at this point we got to remove the torque converter, start getting things set up to swap it over to the new platform. So we just finished washing the engine bay of the van. Basically had to clear out all the last 5-6 years of adventures that the van has been through. We've got a clean platform. Now we're gonna start pulling the engine together, getting it ready to go in the van. But I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce you to the man himself, Greg. He's the guy behind Boxeer and this wonderful creation that helps breathe life back into these old Volkswagens. Greg, say what up.
Hey guys.
So tell us about how you started in this. How did you come up with this idea for this platform?
When I was 18, I had a T3 in France. The 1.6 turbo diesel was very sluggish and slow and everything. It was just common sense. I was seeing this TDI swap from the Seat Ibiza Golf 3, put a 1.9 TDI. Found some joy into integrating something from another vehicle, more modern, into the old Volkswagen bus.
You're basically breathing life back into these things. I think the thing that I'm probably the most excited about on this is the fact that I am starting with a brand new motor. I mean, this thing is straight from the Volkswagen factory. It's no miles, it's never been in another vehicle before. This isn't your typical junkyard rescue. It didn't come out of a wrecked car or a used car or anything. Straight from the factory. Never had that opportunity in the old Volkswagen. Now this beast of a motor out of a 2018 Volkswagen Golf is rated at 150 horsepower and a whopping 230 foot-pounds of torque. The fact that it is a late model TDI motor, it comes with all the latest technology. This old Vanagon's not going to know what to do with such a solid platform. The other exciting part is the fact that Greg has seen as high as 31 miles per gallon out of one of these motors in a Volkswagen Vanagon. That's pretty impressive when you think about a giant shoebox moving down the highway. Beautifully simple. Check this out. It goes from the turbo right here, dumps into this stainless steel Flowmaster exhaust, and then it dumps out right here at the back of the van. I cannot imagine what the sound is going to be coming from this Vanagon now. The turbo whistle, the grunt of this TDI motor, this Flowmaster, it's all gonna add up to one good sounding Vanagon. Can't wait to get this thing on the road. Now this is the stock oil pan that comes straight from Volkswagen on these motors. It's also the oil pan that comes standard with Greg's kit when you buy this whole entire conversion. An upgrade for those of us that are interested in off-roading our upgraded Vanagons, Greg offers this billet aluminum oil pan machined out of one solid chunk of aluminum, which makes it impressively durable for us off-roaders. The other benefit of this oil pan is the fact that it maintains a better departure angle over the stock oil pan, which makes it great for off-roading applications. Let's talk about the turbo system here on the Boxeer TDI. We go from the turbo through the charge pipe up here to the intercooler. This system is short, it's concise, dramatically improves the turbo responsiveness. This is the harness that I pulled out of my van. This has already been dramatically reduced as it is because I did convert to Subaru. The original Volkswagen one was even worse than this, but we can see what a rat's nest this is, especially when we compare it to the Boxeer harness here, which Greg has kept extremely simple. Got the ECU, got just a few connectors that hook up to the engine harness, and then over here we've got a very small handful of wires that connect into the existing chassis harness. Overall, extremely simple, and that is so important when we're working with these old vehicles that are simple already. One of the things that make the Vanagon platform so unique is the fact that the engine is located at the rear of the vehicle. But that also means that the way in which these engines are mounted in the back of the vehicle also very unique. Right here we can see that Greg has come up with this particular mounting system for his kit. 3/8 stainless steel. It's beautifully TIG welded. This is going to sit perfectly in the back of the Vanagon and mount up to the existing bolt holes that are available in the engine bay. But I also wanted to point out here that in this particular configuration that's going in my van, this motor is clocked at a 50-degree angle. And the main reason for that being so that I can maximize the amount of ground clearance underneath my oil pan here for the type of off-roading that I enjoy doing in my Vanagon. Greg also does offer a kit that keeps the engine at the stock 15-degree orientation if you so desire. Now I'm sure one of the most obvious questions is how in the world are you going to take a brand new TDI motor that would be out of a 2018 car and make it fit with a transmission that is out of a 1991 Volkswagen Vanagon? Well, of course, the bolt patterns are not going to match up between this block and this transmission. So there are adapter plates available, and that's what I have bolted onto the engine block back here behind the torque converter. Now these adapter plates are available on all different patterns, whether you've got an automatic transmission, a manual transmission, and then made to adapt to whatever motor platform. Everything's gonna match up nicely, and that's what I'm gonna work on right now. Just like that, we've got the trans mounted up to the engine. We're making progress. This is exciting. We're almost there. Right now we're just going to jump the starter while it's on the ground here. We just want to make sure that the torque converter and everything is all lined up properly before we get it installed in the van.
We have oil in the engine, so we're building the first oil pressure in the turbocharger and the cams. Everything is lubricated.
Oh yeah.
Piston rings, first time moving.
So here goes nothing.
Yeah.
That's it, dude.
Yeah, that's doing it.
What's the next step?
Next step, push it under the van and hook everything up and fire it.
Start with the refitting. Hell yeah, dude. Okay, well, the bench test proved to be successful. Everything is fitting nicely between the automatic transmission and the TDI motor. From here, I'm going to slide this whole completed unit underneath the van and start the installation process. So now we are starting down the other side of the mountain at this point, and let's see if we can't get this bad boy in and cranking out some horsepower. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, just like that, we've got a TDI back here in the back of the Volkswagen. That right there is a sight to see. Right now we've got it held up there temporarily with straps so we can still maneuver the engine and the transmission around and get the mounts into place just right where they need to be. We're finally starting to see the beginning stages of what this TDI is going to look like here in the back of the Vanagon. So far, this 2.0 turbo diesel TDI is fitting nicely here in the back of the Vanagon. And as we can see, this billet aluminum oil pan tucks up nicely, and we still have that nice departure angle that we're used to here in the back of these Vanagons. So here we are in the back of Greg's workshop. This is the area where he does a lot of his design and his R&D stuff. Now normally his kits come in a 15-degree configuration, which keeps the engine more upright. We're actually going to mount my engine at a 50-degree angle. Went ahead and mocked up the engine brace. We've got that all here in the workshop, and Greg is going to do some scanning on this, get it all set up in his system so that he can continue to produce more of these 50-degree kits.
I'll just throw this bad boy and mount it forever.
And this is going to be basically the first time the motor sits in the van all by itself, only supported by the engine mounts. Alright.
Strap is off. Perfect. Open with the van. With the fuel tank. And the bumper. Yep.
Well guys, this is it right here. The engine is now officially sitting in the van all on its own, all on its Boxeer motor mounts. I tell you what, this Boxeer motor looks fantastic sitting in this thing. This is one of my favorite views of these old Vanagons and their rear independent suspension. It really is a work of art how this motor fits into this van, and I really cannot wait to hear this thing run. So this is what a Vanagon looks like when it's been converted over to a TDI turbo diesel. Again, with the motor being clocked at a 50-degree angle, the top of the motor basically is sitting over here. So really most of the main modifications from stock are happening back here in the engine bay, and that's with the whole entire TDI motor, the exhaust, the turbo, ECU. It's all back here in the engine compartment. That oil pan doesn't hang much further lower than stock, and that's really good for taking this thing off-road. This right here is where the exhaust dumps out. This is the turbo, 2.5-inch exhaust into this Flowmaster. I mean, we can pretty much almost see the turbo right up in there, so this thing's gonna sound nice and healthy. The cool thing is that Greg uses all the pre-existing holes, so there is no drilling required to mount this motor. Up above is his main brace. This runs all the way across. It hits the motor and then comes over here and hooks up to this side. So that's how the engine is mounted here in the back of the vehicle. There really is no major cutting or drilling or modifying anything on the existing frame here. A little bit of trimming that you do on the firewall to clear things in the back. Mine was already done from when I did the Subaru conversion, which is required also for the Subaru conversion as well. These right here are the stainless steel coolant lines that I installed in one of my previous renovations. This comes all the way from the radiator. Then the two main coolant lines hook up here and just run up here into the motor. I do have the 930 CV axles, which are probably the sturdiest axles that you can get for the Vanagons. That is a good thing because we've got a lot more power and a lot of more torque that's going to be putting power out here to the tires. So having a good solid set of axles is good to have in this type of scenario. Now this particular transmission has been upgraded with Audi turbo internals, which helps step up the durability of the automatic transmission. There again, being a good upgrade for having this much power coming from this Boxeer motor. I go ahead and recommend putting in a new tank because it's a good opportunity to perform some preventative maintenance and start fresh with a new tank when you put diesel in it. That's what I did, so I got a new fuel tank here. Now, there is no difference between a gas fuel tank and a diesel fuel tank. We did swap out the fuel pump for one that is required for the diesel. This is the stock position. Normally there is a stock fuel filter right here in this position. However, that's now been moved up into the engine bay, and I'll show you that here in just a moment. We've got an intercooler heat exchanger at the front of the vehicle. That system runs here, back here to the motor. This is the intake with the intercooler system built into it. This is the intercooler system here that runs down to the heat exchanger at the front of the van. I was telling you about the relocated fuel filter. That is located right here. Basically it just pops right out of there. There are quick connects here and here. Quick connect those off and easily service the fuel filter right here from the engine bay, which is very nice and handy. And then that just clips right back into place. This is the new coolant bottle that goes along with the TDI system. This is where the ECU is sitting over here. The rest of the wiring harness comes in along here and tucks away in there very nicely. We've been at it here for a couple of days. There's a lot of details that go into any project like this. Been through this time and time again, familiar with what goes into this kind of stuff, and it's just a matter of getting through it. So far, so good. Everything is fitting in there beautifully and coming together wonderfully. We're gonna keep charging away at it. Alright guys, let's take just a moment and talk about a drive-by-wire, otherwise known as a fly-by-wire system. Back in the day, like when the Vanagon was put on the road, there's an actual physical cable that runs between your gas pedal and the throttle. Anytime you push the gas pedal, it opens the throttle and the engine goes. Now we fast forward to modern technology and that all goes away because we have what is called a drive-by-wire or fly-by-wire system. This is a gas pedal that is normally found in most modern vehicles. It operates and functions just like a regular gas pedal at your foot from the driver's position. However, inside this pedal is a potentiometer that is built in, and that is measuring the position of the foot pedal that sends a signal to the engine, and then the throttle is electronically engaged and the engine goes and you're zooming down the road. Now the benefit of fly-by-wire is the fact that you have much more accurate throttle control. There's no physical cable that gets all gummed up and yucky and actually needs maintenance. So really, it is nice technology to have in your vehicle, and that is actually how the TDI works. It is a drive-by-wire. So it's a great opportunity to upgrade the technology in the Vanagon. And for all of you that have a manual transmission Vanagon, you are in business because you get to install one of these pedals inside your driver's compartment and you are running fly-by-wire with this Boxeer kit. Very, very cool. But let's pump the brakes right there because I am dealing with an automatic transmission application here in my Vanagon, and that is going to pose a few variables in being able to upgrade my system to a drive-by-wire pedal. Let's jump on over to the Vanagon and I'm going to explain what we had to do to make this whole system work with my automatic transmission Vanagon. Now with these new technology engines, there's actually no way to convert them back over to a physical cable-driven throttle body. We have to work in the fly-by-wire system somehow. Now in the automatic transmission application of the Vanagon, the way it comes stock is that there is a gas pedal in the front of the van. There's a cable that comes all the way back to the automatic transmission, and it's hooked up to the lever that when we go full pedal, it actually drops the gear down and we accelerate forward. From that kick down lever, there is a cable that runs back to the cable-driven throttle body in the stock Vanagon. So what we had to do is we had to figure out a way to work in the drive-by-wire pedal into the equation. So where this would normally hook up to the actual cable-driven throttle body on the old motor, we took that cable and we just hooked it in line here with the drive-by-wire pedal, so that now when we activate the gas pedal in the front, that's going to pull this lever down just as if we were pushing the gas pedal. Then this wire here is going to hook into this drive-by-wire pedal, and this is what's going to send the signal over to the engine, and then we are in business running a TDI drive-by-wire engine on an automatic transmission Vanagon. So then I take this pedal and I'll find a good spot to have it sitting in here so it can operate freely still here in the back of the Vanagon. Guys, I'm exhausted. It's been a long week. I mean, after all, we are converting this old Vanagon from gasoline to diesel. I'm at an exciting point right now on the van. The engine, of course, is in. We've already talked about that. Today, I worked on running the coolant lines and the heat exchanger for the intercooler system. That is all plumbed in, dialed in, so we're looking strong and steady on that. Greg's been working on all the rest of the details of the wiring. We've got the exhaust mounted. I'm working on the intake system. We are basically at the point right now where I'm gonna start adding fluids. That's a big step right there. So I'm gonna top this thing off with coolant. Gonna get the power steering fluid in. That means all those systems are hooked up and ready to go. So this is exciting. We are getting close to being able to start this thing, guys, and I'm excited. And now on to the power steering fluid. Greg actually uses the stock Volkswagen power steering tank just with a little bit of a relocation bracket that mounts it nicely over here off to the side so that there's still room for the engine brace here. This pops right up out of here. We're just topping them up as far as we can as we start working the air bubbles out of all of these systems. Now it's time to build a custom intake off the turbo. The intake is sitting right back down here in this corner right now. I want to bring it up a little bit and then along this side, and then I want it to tuck back in the hole over here. So I've got some air intake pieces, I've got some elbows that I'm going to work with, get this all fitted up and across here and get an air filter installed back there in the back corner. Basically, I want something that is easily accessible for being able to service my air filter, especially since it is back here in the rear of the vehicle. It is very susceptible to dust, and here on Living the Van Life, we definitely drive a lot of dusty roads, and we can see it sits in here nicely. Should be all right for routing, it looks like. To the intake back down there, comes across, and then we can see back in there where the air filter element sits. I feel like that routing should work for now. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that out, get it all cleaned up, and get some clamps on there, and I think that's gonna work for our test drive tomorrow. Pops right out of there, just like we want it. This is not the air filter that I'm going to be using. This is just a temporary one so I can see how it fits down inside there. Whew. It is the end of another long day of wrenching on the Vanagon, but I think we're getting there. Tomorrow we should be putting diesel in the tank. We should be firing this puppy up and taking it for a test drive. It's been a long week on this project. It's a lot of work. It's just all the fine details. It's a lot of on your feet and up and down and under the van, over the van, around the van, etc. But this is an exciting point. I can't wait to start this thing. We should be doing that tomorrow. So I, at this point, am gonna go get a good night's sleep. This is home right here. I mean, here on Living the Van Life, we live the van life. Even though the van is getting a transplant, this is home. So every night, the van comes down onto the ground. I have to put the engine lid on and I convert it into home. I sleep and get up and do it all the next day. So that is the joys of living in a van while you are doing a conversion on it. Normally I'd be in the Sprinter and have that as home base, but the Sprinter is across the country out in San Diego. The old Volkswagen, it's home while we're getting the transplant done. And as soon as this thing is on the road and running again, then I'm headed westbound and taking this thing back to California. So nonetheless, we're making progress. We've got a Boxeer TDI turbo diesel. You know what my favorite part about that is? Not only will both the vehicles be diesel, and there's no like, wait, do I put gasoline in this one or do I put diesel in this one? No, do I put diesel in this one or do I put gasoline? They're both diesel. And the other thing, the other favorite thing I'm excited for is the fact that now the Vanagon is a diesel, which means the diesel heater can actually draw off of the tank. I can get rid of the internal tank inside the cabinet. No more diesel inside the van. It's gonna be in the fuel tank underneath where it belongs. All right, guys. Obviously, I am getting delirious at this point. It is late. It is almost midnight for probably the 7th night in a row that we've been on this project. But here it is. All right, guys. Catch you in the morning for some exciting van starting. All right, guys. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. All the fluid levels are topped off and level. This thing is about ready to start. The other cool thing is I actually put diesel in it for the first time ever. That's crazy to me.
I think it's ready to fire.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it gonna fire up?
Right away is my guess.
Right away?
Yeah.
All right, let's go see. First time that the Vanagon has started under diesel power.
You want me to go hit the key?
No, I'll go do it. That way you can keep going. Thanks.
All right.
Let's do it.
Let's do this. Go for it. Turn it off, turn it on again. Keep cranking.
So Greg's gonna give it another shot here, try a few different things, and see if we can get this thing to fire. Smell of diesel.
Pretty clean. So there's up. Yeah. Let me use the thing. Cross crank.
Yeah.
Bam.
Yep. Nice and quick.
Yep. Let's cut this one up. Just wipe it off.
Bam, just like that, we've got a brand new TDI diesel motor, Boxeer conversion, no more gasoline. The Vanagon is officially converted over to diesel. It started, it rolled out under its own power out of the shop, and from here, I'm gonna rip it west all the way to California. Let's get this thing out into the desert and see how it drives. Now, as I mentioned, I've had a plethora of different engines here in the back of the old Volkswagen. Of course, starting off with the stock 2.1 liter water boxer, which blew up in 2012. From there, I've had the Subaru EJ25, I've had the Subaru EJ22, and now the brand new EA288 turbocharged direct injected TDI motor. So I've got a lot to be able to compare. Of course, the original Volkswagen motor, it left a lot to be desired, and pushing a big old vehicle like this down the highway, it definitely lacked a lot of power. Moving on to the Subaru, we had a lot more power. The fuel mileage wasn't that great. We were still sitting around 13 to 14 miles to the gallon. The EJ22 was about the same on miles to gallon, but just less power. But now that we're into the TDI motor, this thing has torque for days. Of course, that's what diesel motors are known for, and that really helps get this old Vanagon down the road. Horsepower is great, but the fuel mileage, I am now getting 26 miles to the gallon. That is freaking exceptional for a big old shoebox driving down the road. Now, one of the biggest questions going into this project was how exactly is an automatic transaxle going to hold up to the torque and the power coming from these TDI motors? To be quite honest with you, we had no idea. We did some research online. Didn't sound like people were having great luck with TDI motors mated to an automatic transaxle and Vanagons, but Greg had faith in these newer EA288 common rail motors and the fact that they are so much smoother than the older TDI motors that were known just to simply rattle apart these old automatic transmissions. So we went into it head first and decided to give it a shot, and to our pleasant surprise, this thing drives like a dream with a newer common rail TDI motor mated to this automatic transaxle here in the Vanagon. So I wanted to take you guys on a ride down the freeway and give you a bit of an experience of what it's like driving this thing now on the freeway. Now, one thing to consider is back even when the Vanagon had the stock Volkswagen motor, it was always advised that not to push these old Vanagons more than 60 miles an hour and it really just make your engine last longer. So that's just kind of the way that I've gotten used to driving my old van. Here now with the TDI motor, we've got plenty of grunt and power to push this thing to 70, 80, 90 miles an hour. But the fact is, it's still an old Volkswagen and I don't care to push my van that hard. Now, one of the things that are important here in my particular setup with the automatic transaxle is the fact that I have extra low gearing in the final drives. That really helps me climb hills and get through obstacles when I'm off-road. The downside of that is that it doesn't really optimize the gearing for freeway travel, and especially with a diesel, simply because a diesel does not rev out as high as a gasoline motor. Highway gearing in the automatic transaxle, and this thing would cruise perfectly at the optimal RPM range for the diesel motor at probably 70 miles an hour. However, I just don't want to give up that optimized gearing for my off-road travels. So instead, I choose to cruise down the highway at about 60 miles an hour and just enjoy my ride. So right now, I'm sitting at 50 miles an hour on the speedometer. On the GPS of the phone, I'm actually showing 60 miles an hour. And that is really due to the oversized tires that I'm running and the gearing that I'm running in the transaxle. At those speeds, I am running at about 3,200 RPM, which might be a little bit high for the diesel motor, but with how smooth these common rail TDI motors are, they actually can handle that kind of RPM for longer periods of time over some of the older, perhaps ALH TDI motors. So now we see that the Vanagon drives beautifully down the road with this automatic transaxle, and it shifts great. Matter of fact, it's almost as if this automatic transmission was designed to be with a motor that delivers the torque and the power like this. However, I will say there is a caveat. We need to be careful on how much torque we do deliver to this transmission, because one of the big things that will kill an automatic transmission is excessive heat. And when an engine delivers a lot of torque to an automatic transmission, it does generate heat. It will overheat the transmission. So one upgrade that I have done is I added an external transmission cooler. The stock transmission cooler that comes from Volkswagen on these automatic Vanagons will not hold up to the heat, and it won't dissipate enough heat away from the transmission. So it is necessary to go with an external transmission cooler. Installed between the frame rails underneath the driver's side, I have an external transmission cooler that I purchased from German Transaxle of America. This cooler provides a 12-volt thermostatically controlled fan, absolutely key in keeping your transmission cool and healthy when it's paired up with a Boxeer motor with all this power and torque. The old Vanagon is back on the road. Both the Sprinter van and the old Volkswagen are now diesel. The old Vanagon's got some new life back in it. I've missed the van, you guys have missed the van. This whole entire channel was built on the adventures that this old van got me out on. So I'm truly thankful to have new life breathed back into it. And now we're gonna be out in search of the next dirt road. All right guys, I'm out of here. Peace out, keep on trucking.